Right now, it's up to 14 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Revive your garden with Nutrog biological fertilisers at good hardware and garden stores. Nutrog.com.au. This is 5AA Weekends.
Good morning, Michael Keelan's weekend on this 28th day of April, as Edwina said. Partly cloudy and 7:38.
Yes, and joining us now to talk all things gardening and nutrition, Dr. Uwe Stroeher from Nutrog. Uwe, good morning to you.
Good morning. A fantastic talk you had this morning with Alison.
She was very good.
I'm so glad I'm not doing fungi today. I thought, wow.
You've been building the table for the last 5 years.
Yeah, but, you know... It's good to get it from someone else. Yes. It's good, you know. It's good if I'm not the only person that's on their soapbox going, we need this diversity for insects, we need diversity of plants, all these sorts of things. It's good that someone else comes along and goes, yep, this is what it's about. Go and read the book, and you know, it's really, I think it's fantastic that people are showing that interest.
Just stay on it for a minute. How can, if someone like Marcus, he was very impressed when she was with Alison. What can he do today in his garden to start that process?
Get some organic matter into the ground, get some mulch down. Fungi tend to like woody sort of material. They secrete certain enzymes called cellulasers. They break down cellulose. So they're really good at that. So that's like a preferred food for them. So you can encourage fungi in one way. You could put in green material, and that encourages bacteria. So you can sort of balance between them. So that's, you know, that's the easiest way. That's a good way. I mean, I say, you know, throw some go-go juice on or one of the pelletized fertilizers. A lot of them already have some fungal species in them. So, you know, it's pretty easy to actually get it started. But, you know, these barren landscapes of these monocultures that people have in their gardens, it's just not the way of the future, I think.
No. There you are, Marcus. Since you knock off from Phil Hoffman.
Yep.
Home.
Bit of the juice.
That's it.
But today we're talking about the theft of photosynthesis.
No, we're talking about.
Have I got the wrong one?
You got the wrong one. I think we're talking today about autumn leaves and what to do with all those autumn leaves.
This is out of late night. I had difficulty saying at 6 o'clock photosynthesis. So away you go, autumn leaves. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I guess, you know. Nowadays,
good name for a song.
Yeah, I struggle with this every year with the autumn leaves. Well, my trees were small; there weren't that many leaves. But my trees are quite large now, and I've got, you know, quite a few deciduous trees. So, a lot of leaf litter that lies around, and you sort of think, what do I do with all those leaves? Nutritionally, there's not much value in them anymore. The plants have pulled back what nutrients they can out of the leaves. What's left over is basically a good source of carbon, so fantastic for your fungi. They don't really have a huge nutritional value for your garden. So people go, what do we do? In the old days, we used to burn them. I remember people used to rake up leaves and burn them.
That's right, in the gutter.
Well, we can't do that anymore. Probably a very, very good thing we don't, because that's just a waste of the material. But some people say, just leave them laying where they are, they'll rot down. But what I found in my own garden, from my own experience, was that basically if you leave them just laying there, if they cover your ground cover plants, they deprive them of light. They you know, because basically the leaves lay on top. They're fantastic at catching things like what little rain comes down or what dew comes down, and immediately they get really wet and they stick to the surface of all your plants. I did this last year, left them there for about 4 weeks, came back, took them out, and I had all these patches where areas had rotted. So, you know, I'm still learning. So, yeah, get them off the ground, put them in a compost heap. If you've got open areas where there isn't anything, if it's just on top of your mulch or whatever, fine. But otherwise, get them up and get them off of your low-lying plants. And I actually did this last weekend. Yes, I did. I did last weekend. I redid my entire compost heap and everything. I've got a reasonable sized garden, about 1,000 square metres. Took me an hour and a half to rake up all the leaves, get underneath the bushes, pull them all out, put them in a bucket, take them to the compost heap. It's not a huge job. You got to do it maybe twice in a season. But look, you know, you don't want to get rot setting in now when we're getting into the wet part of the year, because you won't be able to control it. And before you know it, you know, you're parts of your plant start to rot off, and you go, "Oh, I've spent 3 years growing this, and now suddenly it's got."
Yeah. And also leaves against buildings and brickwork.
Well, that's right. Yeah. They also build up around the stem of plants, and then you get collar rot and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So, don't waste them. They're great for your compost heap, but sort of get them off the ground, and then you need to think about what nutrients do they have, because they're mainly carbon. They need a source of nitrogen. So if you want to rot them down, certainly you have to put something in with them. So, a pelletized fertiliser. I mean, we make one called Bounce Back, which is probably a really good one to use in your compost. So that you get some nitrogen in there to help break them down, because otherwise they will sit there for quite a long time. And again, mix it all in. Keep it nice and loose. Throw in some go-go juice, and before you know it, those leaves rot down within 3 to 4 months. In spring, you can pull it out, put it around your veggie patch, put it around your other plants, and you've made
magic.
You've made soil, exactly as Alison said. Fungi make soil.
Yeah.
So there you have it. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult.
No.
And you do reap the benefits of being able to do that.
Just earlier this morning, I was telling Marcus about my little heaps, because we've got about the same size gardens, and it's not totally covered with plants, so we got gaps here, there, and everywhere. So I build little mounds of leaves.
Yep.
And put in some sea mungus or something,
whatever you're laying about. Yep.
And come spring, it's gone. It's just broken down. Yeah. There might be a semblance of a low mound left, but that's it.
Yeah. So you've created a little bit of compost.
So you can do that as well.
Yes, you can do that. Yeah. Certainly.
So what happens? How does it change from leaf to compost?
So basically, when it's a leaf, it's still quite structured. There's a lot of structure in the leaf. There's a lot of very complex organic materials that hold the leaf in the shape that it is, and the membranes, or not the membranes, the cell wall from the plant is still there. And then what happens over time is effectively bacteria and fungi come along. They break that down into very, very small.
We call it rotting.
We call it rotting, exactly. And so what happens over time then is that you'll notice that the volume gets less and less. Some of it get lost to CO2 because they break it down and use it as a food source. So they expire or respire CO2. And the heap becomes less and less. And what you're left with is really a material that's quite rich in things like humics. So a lot of humic material in there, because that's material that can't be broken down any further. And also some nutrients that then become available because they're locked up in the leaf itself until fungi and bacteria break them down. Those nutrients in there, although there's not a lot there, can't be released. So you need those bacteria and fungi to basically break that down. And, if you have that diversity of microbes, then it breaks it down quicker, because it requires a combination of different microbes to be able to break these things down. Yep. So that's really what happens.
It is amazing. It's simple. Marcus, there's your mission today.
Yes.
Go gather leaves, my son.
Gather them, but don't push them close to the trees.
No. A great topic. It's something so simple that, have we missed it for years, or did we take a hiccup in our management of our soils when all these chemical fertilisers came out after, when was it, Second World War? Or
I guess we sort of looked back on the Green Revolution that happened I guess that was in the 60s. When the Green Revolution happened. And all of a sudden, I think we thought we'd found the magic bullet. We put nitrogen out, we put phosphate out, put all these chemicals out, and things just went off. I think what we failed to realise was, yes, they were obviously a limiting nutrient in many cases. What we failed to realise is what the damage was that we were doing by not replenishing other nutrients. So over time, you were drawing things like zinc, iron, all those other micronutrients out of the soil as well. And then there comes a tipping point where things just collapse, and we see this all over the world. I mean, we get desertification, we get issues with salinity. So again, it's because we thought we had the magic bullet. We went out and everything looked great, but eventually you have to pay the piper.
Are we turning it back a bit, do you think?
I feel
on a grand scale, on a world scale?
I feel that people are becoming really aware of it.
Yeah.
And, like all of these types of movements, they have to start with an upswell from... I can stand here and you can stand here on our soapbox and shout all we want. But it's when people start to actually pay attention to what we're saying and going, oh, actually, I've tried this in my garden, it works. They'll tell their neighbours and so on and so on. And then it grows. And I think we are changing. I think there's a lot of farmers now, especially the younger generation, who are really receptive and really want to leave their farm in the soil in a better condition than what they inherited from their own parents. And it's not because people were doing things wrong on purpose. They were doing things because that was the accepted practice.
Yep.
You know, and now we know that, we need to put organic matter back in, get that fungi in there, get that soil structure, better root penetration, better water holding capacity, all of those improvements and all the things that we really need to think about, especially when we're looking at, a lack of rain like we have at the moment. Yeah.
What did you bring in today?
I brought in some bounce back. And some go-go juice. So it's really, really good for, your compost.
We've got that to give away, I think, Marcus, haven't we?
Absolutely, yes. Yep.
What is it? When are we doing that? We could give it away or the next hour.
Why not?
Eh?
Sounds good.
Why not? So the next hour we'll give that away. Uwe, thanks for that. It's been very enlightening. We can talk about the theft of photosynthesis next week, if you like.
We can. We did that last year, I think. We might have done that one or earlier this year.
We had a couple of things pop out of the woodwork this morning.
That's all right. Next week I was actually thinking of doing one on failure to compost.
Beautiful. We'll do that.
why to compost?
I'll file this until next year. Uwe, thanks very much for coming in. If people want to get in touch out there at
info@newtrock.com.au or our Facebook page, of course. Yep.
Fantastic.
11 minutes to 8 on Michael Keelan's Weekend.
Probiotics aren't just good for our gut health. They're also great